Hey, this is Notser, and today, Public Test Server 8.0 Phase 3 testing goes live. And it's about an hour and a half from my local time right now. At the time of the video launching, it'll probably be live, and I'll probably be streaming at twitch.tv/Notser. We're testing out all the changes, so let's just go through them. First one, plane hit point and efficiency has been rebalanced. AA efficiency now progresses more smoothly through the tiers. When up-tiered, CVs had almost no chance to cause damage because of the huge jump in efficiency of AA. Now the difference is more subtle. I am curious about this change because I do feel like AA should be equal in its effectiveness regardless of low or high tier. We can't have this, exactly what we had before Wargaming, where if you were the aircraft carrier and you were top tier, you didn't have to care about the AA. If you were bottom tier, you couldn't do anything to break through the AA. It has to be closer than that. Regardless of high or low tier, the CV's play should be very similar. You want to avoid flak. You don't want to just fly through all that crap. I hope that it's more efficient, but clearly we need to test it. Plane replenishment time increased for all tiers except for tier 10. I think this is good. Honestly, tier 4, tier 6, tier 8, I didn't even notice when I would lose aircraft. It was that bad. It was so easy to have full squadrons of effective fighting force. I can't say the same for tier 10, and I think that's noticeable in them omitting tier 10 for this change. But the rest of the tiers, you've got to actually take losses, and it has to be impactful. It has to slow down your damage. I can't express this enough, Wargaming. If aircraft aren't taking losses, what is the player base going to assume other than they have infinite supply of damage? They can't have infinite supply. And they didn't. It's just that the replenishment was so insignificant that no one noticed it. So hopefully this is more impactful. Coupling that with the improved AA efficiency, we should start seeing more losses in players that are less skilled. Hell, even skillful players should take losses, and that should mean less damage output overall for the CV if they continuously throw aircraft away. Tier 4 torpedo bomber characteristics have been corrected. They fixed an issue and removed the fighter consumable. I don't know what's the issue here, that they accidentally included. At tier 4, the torpedo bomber was the only one with fighters, so now there's no fighters anywhere for the aircraft carriers to use as a counter fighter play. I understand that, but I am going to be a little disappointed if tier 6 is the only way that players get to see a fighter consumable. But I understand why the torpedo bomber was nerfed a little bit. Torpedo aiming time also nerfed. Now this one I have no problem with whatsoever, because it was way too easy to always have a successful torpedo attack, and you're banking on a flood. If you would get a flood on a target that couldn't use damage control, he basically flooded out the whole game. Now it requires that you stay in AA zones longer. To hit your target, you should take more damage, and it should be more balanced. Repair party is going to be transferred from the dive bombers to the torpedo bombers. In anticipation of the launch of the CV Rework, Wargaming thought that the dive bomber would receive more damage. However, it turns out that the torpedo bomber actually has to take more damage because it flies straight and it flies for much longer. So the AA explosions are going to be more impactful, and you'll notice that more. So therefore, they felt like repair party made more sense being on the torpedo bomber. I didn't really see a use for it on my dive bombers. It was just, okay, health increase, but if I played right, I didn't take any damage anyway. Clearly, AA is going up, so this is going to be a more important consumable. We'll see how important it is for torpedo, and honestly, Wargaming, it would be kind of cool if you could customize where the repair party is placed. I don't know if that's something you're looking or interested in doing, but, you know, just a suggestion. Priority AA sector increases the DPS of all zones instead of the number of explosions. Now here is a thing that is just a perfect example. The UI was confusing then, because the sectors presented a percentage increase. How am I supposed to interpret that as an increase in number of explosions. I would never interpret percentage increase as increased number of explosions, and yet that's what the sectors did. Now they increase the DPS overall of the zone. Even if you're amazing at dodging explosions, you can't last in a fully buffed sector with continuous damage going. This is outstanding. This is exactly what I've always wanted, and I felt like it needed. I love it. I can't wait to test this part of it. This seems like a perfect change to a system that felt very useless, honestly. So I'm excited. Speaking of sectors, they now have different AA tracer color that will differentiate which sector is more dangerous versus the lower damage sector. So I assume there's going to be 3 different colors. High damage sector, the enhanced side. The normal sector damage, the 100% that's across the board. And then there should be a low damage tracer. We're going to see what actually Wargaming presents when I test it later today. I'm hoping that it'll be that obvious so players can consider that in their strategy. But I don't know because I haven't tested it yet. The CV fighter consumable has been rebalanced. Now it has 4 charges and it lasts for 40 seconds. Thank you. The number of planes in the squadron has been reduced to 4. This still gives the CV decent AA defense, but now they aren't invulnerable to enemy planes. So I think what they were seeing is that a CV would use a fighter as sort of a defensive bubble, and then the CV that used that fighter consumable would openly attack constantly, and they would never be under any attack, either through the catapult fighter consumable or the enemy CV moving his aircraft into the area. I think CVs need to be more vulnerable. I agree. Number of planes called by the catapult fighter consumable lowered. It's going to be 4 instead of 6, 3 instead of 4. So based on the tier, it'll either scramble a 3 squadron or a 4 squadron. With them buffing the AA balance, they have to reduce the effectiveness of this catapult fighter. And honestly, it was pretty silly to see 6 aircraft launch from a catapult off of a ship. It didn't make any sense. So I'm happy for the rebalance. Lowered the efficiency of perks and modernization affecting planes. And they note, not the AA modules, only the modules that improve the efficiency of planes. So maybe this could be related to the hit point increase. I think there was a module setup where you could choose dive, attack, or torpedo, and you increase your hit points by like 15 or 20%. It was ridiculous. Also, I'm thinking about the reclaiming the aircraft. If I took that module, I don't remember exactly what it was called, but it improved the resupply time by like 20%. A huge number. Obviously, I never had an issue with my aircraft resupplying, so coupling that with the low AA efficiency probably meant that you were basically immune to losses. I'm hoping that it's across the board lowering the effectiveness, but I know the hit point 1 had to be nerfed. It was so broken. Added a counter for damage dealt to planes. Yay! This is awesome, Wargaming. This can help you understand your AA efficiency, and the lower count will be indicative of maybe not using your sector system to the most effective. I love this. The AA system has morphed into a damage number game where you're watching and you're looking for a flak burst that does 10,000 damage versus a continuous that does, 150 damage. So I think this is great. It's going to speak and it's going to communicate more to the success of the player than just the number of aircraft down. I think that's great. Torpedo bomber's aim point became more visible on bright maps to increase clarity. Okay, I'm kind of confused, but, that's okay. That's okay. Several ship characteristics were altered. The developer blog that it's referencing is the one that is the buffs to the battleships and destroyers. Sims, Mayhan, Izumo, Nagato, Ki, Eagle, You get the idea. That dev blog that I detailed a couple days ago, that's going in with Phase 3 testing. Excited for that. The sound of bombs dropping on islands is now louder. Fantastic! Islands deserve punishment. Fixed an issue that caused the patch of an enemy who destroyed the player not to be displayed, and there was no transfer to the spectator mode after the ship. So it was just some weird vision camera bug that was introduced that prevented you from going into the spectator mode. Okay. Fixed an issue that caused the game client to crash. Okay. Fixed an issue that caused an incorrect display of Ryujo's squadron elevators. I noticed this. Some of the aircraft, their elevators on the aircraft were like disconnected from the model itself, and they were like sort of flying with the aircraft in 3D space, and it was obviously being animated correctly. It just would look ridiculous because the elevator was 10 feet off of the aircraft in the middle of the air. Glad they're changing that. Tier 10 will be unavailable for research, but players will be able to obtain them in the arsenal as did before. Ranked battles will be unavailable during the second Phase 2 testing. Okay, well, they didn't change this. I'm going to assume that ranked battles will be unavailable for Phase 3 testing, because that's what we're in. So, super excited for these changes. I think they are going in the right direction. I honestly, I love every change. Every change is addressing real issues. I'm curious to see how they all come together. Obviously, we'll commentate and share videos on that and stream later today if you're interested in that. Otherwise, leave in the comments your thoughts on the changes. I'm excited to read them. This is an important patch, and this is the last test, supposedly, before 8.0 is released. So we've got to get really close. Otherwise, the live patch is going to feel awful. So I hope you all enjoyed the discussion. Again, comment. Excited to read. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.